Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Food Values. Today we are going to talk about some myths and facts about thawing frozen foods. Yes, foods which are kept in freezer where the temperature is around minus 0 to minus 18 degrees Celsius and the food is frozen into ice. That food we are calling as the frozen food. There are several mistakes that we often do while we are thawing foods. So today we are going to discuss about that. The first mistake that we often do, and that is we often try to thaw our frozen food on the countertop, or we tend to leave it at the room temperature, or we tend to add hot water to the food, which we should never do. The reason why I am saying this, food takes a long time to thaw. And when the surface of the food is already thawed, the center of the food remains frozen. So the microorganisms which are present on the food before freezing or in the air, they will start spoiling the food. They will start deteriorating the food from the surrounding, while still the center will be frozen. So by the time whole food is thawed, part of the food will be spoiled. So we should never leave food on the countertop for it to thaw. Rather, there are three simple steps that are always preferred if we want to thaw our food correctly and we don't want any foodborne illness. First thing is we have to plan beforehand. A day before, we have to take our frozen food out of our freezer and store it in the freeze where the temperature is around 0 to 4 degrees Celsius. Or a night before, we have to take our food out of the freezer and keep it in the freeze. In the freeze, where the temperature is low, our food will slowly thaw and it will be safe. Another thing that we can do is instead of keeping in the refrigerator, we can just keep our food under the running cold water. Or simply we can dip our food in cold water and then we change our cold water every 30 minutes. And last thing that we can also do is microwave thawing. But microwave thawing has its own disadvantage. So overall, when we are using these three methods of thawing, in every case, we have to cook our food instantly after it is thawed. So first thing, we are going to talk about the frozen cooked foods. The frozen cooked foods is difficult to heat because when we heat them, a part of the food gets burnt while still other part remains frozen. So the best way to thaw a frozen cooked food is we have to add little water to it. When we add some water to the food, that water helps to transfer heat to the food evenly. So our food gets heated without being burnt. Now when we come to raw foods like meat or fish, how we should thaw them, the correct ways are those three methods. It can be keeping in the refrigerator a day before, or keeping it in the cold water and changing the water every 30 minutes, or keeping it in the microwave, particularly in case of raw fish or raw meat or raw egg. We cannot refreeze it. The reason behind is when this kind of raw frozen foods are thawed some of the cells in the food, because all foods are made up of living cells. Some of these cells gets damaged, and if we refreeze it and do it again, more portion of the food gets damaged, so overall taste of the food gets deteriorated. So if we want the best taste from the food, we have to cook it after it is thawed. And lastly, if we are thawing frozen vegetables, in that case we don't need to worry about thawing process. We can simply cook them using water or boil them in water. So that these are the correct ways of thawing our food. And lastly, I want to discuss another thing, that is, it is often said that we should not keep hot food or cooked food in the refrigerator. Why so? Yes, the main reason behind it is when we keep any hot food in the refrigerator, the other foods that are present in its surrounding or near it will absorb the heat, and that will rise the temperature of the refrigerator, and which is not desirable. So before keeping any hot food in the refrigerator, we try to cool it a little bit. But before it is completely cooled or before it comes to room temperature, we have to move it to refrigerator. Or simply we have to give it only 2 hours. That is, we have to wait for 2 hours after heating. Otherwise, the rest of the food has to be immediately transferred to refrigerator. Or if we want to eat, we have to again heat our food and eat. Now the food that we are storing in the refrigerator, we cannot keep it in the refrigerator for long. We can only keep them safe for 3 to 4 days. After 3 or 4 days, the food is in the refrigerator, we have to move it to freezer, or else we have to throw it. So these are the simple things that can really help us while we are thawing our frozen foods or storing our food or reusing our food. So take care, stay safe, stay healthy. Bye bye.